On the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletic teams and administration each week. Presented by Gamebridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
This is episode 29 of This Week in Ball State Sports, and today we're joined by Deputy Athletics Director Alex Perry. Zoe Middleton from Ball State Gymnastics also joins us, and Coach Shaq from women's tennis also on the podcast this week. Great conversations upcoming, and we'll start with Alex. Alex, appreciate you joining the show for the second time this year.
Thanks, Mick. Always grateful to join you, and looking forward to having a conversation.
Alex, there's quite a bit that's happened over the last couple of weeks, but let's start off with this past week. An event that jumped onto the schedule with the WBIT with women's basketball on Thursday, turned that around. Men's volleyball happened the same day, a couple hours later, really 45 minutes after the conclusion of the basketball game. And then Saturday gymnastics hosting a MAC championships. What was that week like from your standpoint and facility standpoint, all of that to get it turned around and make it happen like that?
Yeah, it definitely was a whirlwind. I think the first thing, Mick, is just really, really appreciative of all of the efforts that went into being able to do that. I don't think people maybe fully appreciate kind of the work behind the scenes that our staff, specifically our facility staff, our game operations staff, specifically Isaac Shell and Kirsten Rich, communications, marketing. There's just a lot of people that are involved in making that happen. And then even our gymnastics staff, I think, were really involved in making sure that it was a first-class event on Saturday. So just a lot that went into the week. And then, gymnastics by itself would be a lot of work. But then, as you mentioned, we had, the WBIT game on Thursday afternoon and then a really big men's volleyball match on Thursday night. So really proud that we were able to pull all those off. First and foremost with the WBIT, the selection show for that, I want to say, was Sunday night. So really once that hit, we're really fortunate that our young ladies earned the opportunity to host, a great season. They earned that opportunity to be able to play in the postseason, and then to be able to host a home game was really cool. So obviously we had to work around some challenges with having a really big men's volleyball conference match that evening, but we were able to kind of squeeze it all together. I think the crowd was really good, all things considered, on short notice, and having to play a 4 o'clock start. But just really, really proud of the effort that went into that. And right when women's basketball gets over, facilities staff goes into action to flip it to a men's volleyball match, and then after that, really the gymnastics prep started immediately following the men's volleyball match. So all in all, I think those 3 events went off pretty seamlessly and really culminated with a really good championship event on Saturday for gymnastics.
Like you said, the opportunity for Ball State to host gymnastics was incredible for the championships, and then also to be able to play that women's basketball game Thursday as well. You mentioned the turnaround from volleyball as soon as that match ended Thursday. The meet was until Saturday, but there was quite a bit that happens between Thursday night, shut down men's volleyball, and then prep for Saturday. What was that process like?
Yeah, it's a really intricate setup. So, our facility staff, it takes them anywhere from 5 to 6 hours just in terms of setting up the equipment. So they really worked late into the night on on Thursday night into Friday morning. And then on Friday morning when our game operations staff and gymnastics staff gets in, it's really the details in getting set up for the championship, making sure everything runs smoothly. It started instantly once volleyball ended, and then really all day Friday and then into Saturday, our staffs were working hard to get prepared.
I want to go all the way back to Sunday with the selection show for the WBIT, because that being a new tournament, different format, now run by the NCAA, so there's different ways that this happens instead of the WNIT coming through. It's a different selection show process. So that happens on Sunday. Your phone's probably ringing of, hey, we got to do this, this, and this. I know I called you. We talked on the phone for a little bit to try and figure things out on the broadcast end, but truly, how many pieces, when you get that, or you hear that news we're hosting, how many pieces do fall into place from Sunday to Thursday?
Yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of phone calls that happen, right away. There is some prep work that you do beforehand, so you are prepared. But really, you had 3 different opportunities that you're kind of hoping for, right? The NCAA tournament is kind of the main goal. Need to win, the MAC tournament really to get into that. Next is the WBIT, which, as you mentioned, is a new tournament, and then the WNIT. So you really don't know, where you're going to fall up until you get to that weekend. And so really, once that selection show happened and we knew we were hosting, it's instant. You talking with facilities, your game operation, your team, obviously your communications, broadcast. There's just a lot of pieces and a lot of people involved. So just trying to make sure you're supporting all those areas and making sure they all have what they need in order to pull off a successful event.
How cool is it that the WBIT is now a thing right underneath the NCAA umbrella?
Yeah, it's outstanding. It really is. If there's one thing that the NCAA does really, really well, it's running championships. And there's nobody better at what they do in terms of running the championship. And this being the first year of the WBIT, that's certainly true. I mean, they just from an organization, a communication standpoint, the branding, everything that they do to put on a championship is first class. And, it's just shows the growth of women's basketball, and it's outstanding that we've got this tournament now that the NCAA is conducting. It's just a really, really good thing for women's basketball. We are thankful to be a part of it.
I think it's great because you have the top 100 teams that are under the NCAA umbrella. You have the teams that make the field in the NCAA tournament, and then the WBIT. So just to see that dynamic change a little bit is really cool. Flipping gears a little bit here, Alex, your new role, Deputy AD, you're taking a step up from Associate Athletics Director, right? That was your previous title. And now in this position for the last few months, how has that process been for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty seamless. Obviously, we miss Haven. Haven, just his personality and all the things that he did around here. We're a lean staff to begin with, so losing somebody of Haven's caliber and what he did for the department is, it just naturally adds more work for all of us as we move forward. But in a lot of ways, the role's been the same. Kind of what I was doing before Haven departed, but really it's just adding on some additional responsibilities since his departure. A lot of people were emailing him things before that they have to email them to somebody. So I've inherited a lot of those things, and then have just continued to really work closely with Jeff and our coaches to make sure we're supporting the needs of our teams.
How have you been able to do that?
Really just in constant communication with Jeff, and we're constantly evaluating what our teams need from what we get from our coaches and our student athletes. And so just stay in constant communication with him, and we embrace it, and we take on the challenges as things come to our desk.
One of those big ways to support our teams is One Ball State Day coming up on April 3rd. What does that day mean for you?
Well, Mick, knowing that you are going to play a huge role.
Here we go. I was scared this would be exposed.
Yep. So really looking forward to you getting in the pool and taking part in that competition and representing athletics is probably what I'm looking forward to the most. But no, just a really, really important day, not only for athletics but for the university. The full Ball State community coming together and supporting a plethora of needs of our university, all going to support the university and our student athletes is a really, really exciting day.
What's the department's role in making sure that One Ball State Day goes as smooth as possible for the department? Yeah,
a lot of it, the foundation does a great job in terms of organizing and communicating. A lot of our role is just facilitating those conversations. Coaches, a lot of our coaches are in the middle of their season, recruiting. They've got a lot of things going on. So really just trying to be that bridge to make sure that, the foundation has what they need, and then make sure that our coaches are being responsive to those communications and make sure that everyone is where they're supposed to be when they're needed on that day.
Alex, there's always so much going on. We talk about One Ball State Day, but have a chance to peel back a little bit. End of March here. When you look at where this department started in August, Jeff started about a year ago, and how it has developed and grown in the last year, how have you seen this department make strides? The department, the programs, the people, how have you seen that grow?
Yeah, I think we're in a much better spot today than we were a year ago. Just Jeff's a year in. I think staffing wise, we're in a really good spot. Obviously, as we've talked about already, losing Haven is a big loss, but I think that we've absorbed that. Just be given the staff that we have in the building. Most of our positions are filled at this point in time. We've got a few that have opened, but for the most part, I feel like we're in a really, really good spot right now, and in a much better position than we were a year ago. So now that Jeff has kind of absorbed that first year, there's a lot that comes when you're sitting in that chair in that first year. So now he's had the opportunity to kind of settle in, and we can start working on a lot of the priorities that we have as a department.
How have you and Jeff grown together through this process?
Yeah, it's been pretty seamless. So he's been great to work with since the day he got here. And like anything, like any relationship, the more that you work together, you start figuring out what things are priorities for him, how he works best, those sort of things. So, in my role, just try to support him the best that I can. Take things off of his desk when I can. But no, it's been a really good relationship, and really thankful for his leadership.
Alex, what do you think is the next step for this department?
One is just to, nothing magic about it, right? You just continue to kind of evaluate where you're at, evaluate what your needs are, and you just really go to work on trying to address, what we identify as needs and try and improve what we can for each of our sports. And you just do that on a daily basis, really.
I mean, feedback season's coming, right? You'll have the summertime to sit down and think about what all happened, took place since August, and like looking retrospectively into everything. How much have you started thinking about that process yet, or is that something that happens in April or May?
Yeah, I don't think it ever really stops. Specifically, for Jeff and I mean, I think you're always thinking about those things. Now, coaches, when they're in season, rightfully so, they're focused on the task at hand, focused on developing their team and really the next practice and the next game. So, now that a lot of those seasons are coming to a conclusion, more of these conversations will start with our coaches, but it never really stops. I mean, I think you're always trying to have a forward view on kind of what's coming and what's next. But certainly it is a good time of year here as we get late into the spring, and then early into summer as we prepare for fall. We'll take a look at a lot of those things and start kind of building out a plan for the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, Alex, before we let you go here on This Week in Ball State Sports, anything you want to say to the Ball State fans?
Yeah, no, it's just, you're coming out of a really good basketball season, had a great support in Worthen, as always. And so now we're at that time of year where, we've got some sports that are participating in championships coming to the close of their season, and then our spring sports are in full swing. So it's an exciting time of year. Going back to where we started, gymnastics was outstanding on Saturday, just a tremendous event. Our team was right there into the last rotation, which was a tough one. But, that team has had a great year, and they've earned an opportunity to compete, in the NCAA regional. So just really excited about that next week, and just have a lot of really, really exciting things going on.
It's a great segue. Zoe Middleton is our next guest from Ball State Gymnastics on This Week in Ball State Sports. Alex, appreciate what you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mick. Go Cards.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. GameBridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at GameBridge.io.
Welcome back inside episode 29 of This Week in Ball State Sports, and Ball State Gymnastics is going to an NCAA regional for the second straight year. We just got done watching the selection show, and we're now joined by sophomore Zoe Middleton here on the podcast. Zoe, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on heading back to regional.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Zoe, you were able to take in this experience again with your teammates, watching Ball State pop up on the screen to go back to a regional. What was that moment like for you today?
It was definitely exciting, but it was definitely also expected. Last year, it was really fun and new and surprising to see our name up there, but now it's that's our spot and we earned it.
What's that mentality shift like from a program that's been there from last year to now this year where, like you said, expect to be there?
I feel like our team culture is so much more together now, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we've been so successful the past 2 seasons.
When you talk about the team culture, I feel like that's such an important piece to every program, but when you specifically say it's so good, what aspects make it as strong as it is?
We just trust each other and we have each other's back.
A chance to go to Michigan. I mean, everybody talks about how Michigan's kind of cold, especially in April, all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like Michigan's going to be a fun time here in April this year.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm really excited, and the team is really excited, so that's really all that matters.
When you look at the roster as a whole, there's so much experience that comes back. There's also the fresh faces that have added to the program as well. How has everybody just continued to use that cohesiveness to make the team better?
Everybody knows their role, everybody knows their part, and everybody puts 100% into what that is. And when we all come together, it just becomes this big great thing that we created.
Zoe, from your own personal perspective, how have you seen yourself develop this year?
Definitely a lot more trust in myself and a lot more trust in my team. It's very difficult coming into college and getting out of that gymnastics is an individual sport, but once you realize how much better it is when you come together as a team, it's so much easier, it's so much more fun, and I think that has helped me a lot this year.
That's such an interesting point that you make, especially with the aspect of, like, it is so individual when you jump on the beam or when you're on the bars. Like, it is such an individualistic sport. Have you seen that make the team better too? Like, you having that approach, does it, like, the rest of the team come through with that?
Yes, because when you're just thinking about your performance, it's a lot harder than thinking about, I'm doing this for my team and I just want to be there for them.
One of the coolest things from the outside, from the gymnastics perspective, is like the energy that is always on display. How do you see your team's energy watching your teammates help in that case?
We just have a lot of different big personalities, and when we're all together, it gets crazy, but it's a lot of fun.
So when you look back at what you've accomplished so far this year and last year, how would you describe what the journey's been for you at Ball State?
The journey has been long. I've learned a lot, mostly about myself, and I've learned how to, like, deal with different groups of people, which has been, like, a really big thing for me. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
How much fun has that been?
It's been like 50-50. When you realize new things about yourself, it's like, it's different, but that's college and we all go through it. So
how, when you came to Ball State first, what jumped out to you to come to this university?
When I just seen Ball State gymnastics, I had never seen like a team be like that. Just coming from the gym I came from in JO to seeing like how that team was having fun in practice, it just seemed something like I wanted to be a part of. And
that probably helped you feel really comfortable right off the bat.
Yes.
And how did that help you jump into your role and feel like you could execute at the highest level?
I just felt like I could be myself. I had no worries. I could do my gymnastics freely. I trusted my team. I trusted my coaches. So everything kind of flowed into place.
Zoe, let's go all the way back. When did you first start gymnastics?
I started when I was 5. And I did cheer and dance at first, but one of my cheer coaches told me that I should do gymnastics. So I just started gymnastics at the nearest gym, which wasn't very near for me, but yeah, that's how it started.
So you had to commute to be able to get to play or to compete in gymnastics.
Mm-hmm. About an hour.
Okay. So an hour commute, and that probably showed like the amount of commitment and the amount of dedication, and then how much you started to love it, right? Because you had to make that commitment.
Yes, and then I seen how my family also was jumping in to help me get to and from practice and school and tutors, so it just meant a lot for me and my family.
When you look back at all of those factors and all of those people that helped you, how did that help you establish like gymnastics is the way that I want to go?
Mainly my mom. She was just, I just seen how excited she was for me after each meet, and it was just so fun for us to travel together. So it became like a bonding thing for us, and then it just became, I had goals, and then I wanted to be places, and I wanted to do bigger things with it. So, yeah.
That's such a good point that you make, because there are so many opportunities for people to change what sport they're doing throughout their career, or a chance to build on what one sport seems to be like the route that people go. But when you look back at it, do you think that starting gymnastics when you did help put you in a position that you're in today?
Yes, I think it would have been very different if I didn't start at the age I did, just because gymnastics is very difficult and it takes a lot of time, and I'm still like learning the sport, so that just shows that it's better to start younger.
When you talk about still learning the sport, we talked a little bit about you as an individual, how you've grown, from a philosophical standpoint, from as a competitive standpoint, what areas do you think you've grown in the most, on the floor, on the vault, anywhere? Where do you think you've put that extra time in that's really paid off?
Probably vault. I feel like when people watch it, it looks so simple and so easy. It's quick, but for me, it takes a lot. And when I first came to Ball State, I realized that I didn't even know how to vault at all. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of running and like seeing what happens. But then I learned that, oh, if I do this, then this will happen, and then it'll look like this. So that was kind of interesting. Vault's been like that kind of struggle event for me, but it's been like a fun challenge.
We could talk about a lot of things within what you just said there, because that's really interesting that you had a perspective of what vault was, but now you have a new perspective of it. How tough was it, or maybe not even tough is the right word, but what was that process like to learn the new things about vault that make you better and unlearn some of the stuff that you've had before?
Very difficult. Like, I came in and I thought I knew everything, but you really don't know nothing for real. So that was just like a big growing experience for me, for someone to tell me, no, you're not doing it right at all, and you need to start from here. So I almost had to relearn it, which was hard, but I'm very thankful that I had to go through that now.
Zoe, when you look at what Ball State is as a university, but from a personal standpoint, what does it mean to you, this university?
A place that gives you space to grow freely.
What does that mean to you?
You have everything you need in front of you to be successful. No one is going to let you fail.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Congratulations and good luck in Michigan.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Hey, Cardinal fans, welcome back inside to episode 29 of This Week in Ball State Sports. And women's tennis just picked up a massive win on Sunday in Mid-American Conference play. We're joined by head coach Sachin Kartane. Coach, this is a really fun match to come off of with the big win against Eastern Michigan. How did you see your team perform in that one to get that one done?
I mean, it was amazing. It's kind of weird. This is the first time in my coaching career where probably I've had to play a team back-to-back. So we went to Ypsilanti on Friday to play Eastern Michigan, and then we're supposed to play them, obviously, again yesterday at home. And we've had a string of just bad luck injuries, like just having 7 players. One of our girls was in hospital Thursday with a kidney stone that popped up, so she was out. So we played Eastern Michigan on Friday in Ypsilanti with 5 players, defaulting number 3 doubles and number 6 singles. But we played, I think the doubles we were a little shell-shocked, but the singles was great. Even though we lost 6-1, I mean, 3 of the matches we had chances to win. So I think the girls really felt good about our chances with, obviously we didn't know at that time whether Sydney was going to be back, but thankfully she passed the kidney stone and then she was able to practice Saturday. And then Sarah, who usually plays number 1 doubles and number 2 singles, her ankle was stable enough where she could play doubles. And I think we went out and completely dominated them in doubles. And this is probably one of the best doubles points we've played. And I think that gave us a lot of momentum. And then I think, a couple of the spots, I mean, it was really hard for Sid not having had reps all week and just with all the uncertainty. And the girl that played Izzy at number 4 played a really good match, so that put him up 2-1. But Elena actually stepped up big because she lost to the girl Friday. But we worked on a lot of things knowing she was going to play her again, and she basically executed everything perfectly to beat the same girl in straight sets, which usually a lot of times doesn't happen. So that was a big push for us. And then the match score was 2-2 with basically, Ella, Jackie, and Annika playing the 3 matches, and then Annika was down 3-love in the third and came back 1-6-4 in the third, and then Jackie, who was a walk-on the last year, basically stepped up and played one of the best matches she's played to clinch it 6-2 in the third to give us the win. Ella battled really hard, lost to a good player, close in the third set. But I think what we did really well is everybody stood on that court as long as they could. So I think they enabled the player next to them to get momentum, just feeding off what they were doing. And I think that's probably was the single biggest factor in us going over the hurdle. And I just think it's great. We've played a lot of close matches we lost earlier in the season. We've played a lot of Power Fives. And, it's good for me that finally they can see the vision that, hey, this is what we were doing for. We beat Northern Illinois 4-3 at home a week ago. We beat this team 4-3. So I think it's slowly starting to come into place with their confidence level and how they kind of feel like, hey, we can go out there now and win in the MAC.
You mentioned Jackie finishing that off. The celebration video was amazing, just the reaction for the emotion of, like you mentioned it, where she was at before this year and how she's continued to make her position known. How have you seen her be able to capture what she is capable of and then prove herself in moments like that?
It's tough, because she doesn't know if she's going to play or not till the last second. Being the number 7 girl, you have your 6 that are going to play, and Jackie's usually, it's maybe a match time decision if something's going on with somebody else. So it's really hard. And then the other tricky part is she doesn't play doubles. So she has to be able to ready to just step up right away when that single starts and get going. And she's improved so much. She has a huge game. She has a lot of weapons. And I think she's slowly but surely she's realizing how to use those weapons, and that, and I think that's probably been the biggest transition for her. It's just in the beginning, she just would have some random misses out of nowhere, and I think she's really avoided those. And yesterday's match was a roller coaster. She knew she was playing a girl that's probably better than her on paper, but she played a great first set. The girl came back, obviously raised the level a lot, played a good second set, and that's all I kept telling her. It's okay. You just got to be able to withstand it. And then she went up 2-love in the third, had all the momentum. The girl comes back, gets to 2-all, and then Jackie just believed and won 4 straight games, which is pretty amazing for a kid that doesn't get a whole lot of reps in matches on a daily basis. And I think it was amazing for the girls too, because Jackie's such a good team person. She's always cheering everybody. She's always out there no matter what. So I think it was really exciting for the team to see Jackie have such a huge moment like that in against such a big rival of ours.
And to do that coming off the week that the team had, to be able to twist that emotion into a positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I've said this is the biggest strength of the team that we have is most times than not, making my experience, after the way we played doubles on Friday in Ypsilanti with what was dealt to us, most teams would have quit. And that match would have been over in probably an hour and a half, and we would have been back on the road. Well, we grinded it out for over 3 hours and gave ourselves a chance to win shorthanded. And I think that's what my biggest message to the girls was, that, hey, look, I've been doing this 25 years. And in my experience, more times than not, a majority of the team would have used that as an excuse to just not compete on that day. But we didn't. And I think that's a credit to the girls and the culture that they have, and, being such a tight-knit group as they have. I think they don't want to let one another down. Yeah. And I think they feed off that every single time, and I think the biggest thing is they're learning to win. I think with having so much inexperience, I think we went through struggles earlier with, girls that were in position to win that just didn't know what to do in order to execute. And I think now it's becoming a little clearer to them as to what their path should be, during the match. And I think that obviously, when you play these college matches, they're so tight with the no ad, with 1 point basically deciding a game if it's deuce. And I think some of the decisions we're making now are so much better when the moment gets magnified than they were before when we were playing earlier in the season. But I knew that, deep down, I knew that because I saw how much they cared and how much they wanted. And honestly, as a coach, that's something you can teach. That has to come from the team, and I think we have that. And I think it's easier for me to coach him when I can see that we have that, and it's just little certain parts that I have to add into that in order for them to be able to compete. And, I think a lot of the MAC thought, with the turnover we're going to have, like we were going to be, probably not as good as everybody thinks. But, I knew in the fall I saw these girls, and I'm like, I know they're going to get better. And I don't know if we're going to win the MAC. I don't know where we'll finish. But I know every team that plays us is going to have to play their best to beat us. And that was my whole spiel to them the entire season, that, hey, I don't care what happens, but I want that team walking off that court saying, man, we had to play our best to beat Ball State. And I'm proud to say that we've done that so far.
Coach, that's a great segue into the culture conversation, because you came in with all that experience. First, you're head coach, you're rebuilding, retooling the roster. How were you able to cultivate the culture from the very beginning to make sure that your team would do that and respond the way that they did in a match like they did against Eastern Michigan?
Well, I think I've learned over my years, and especially with my years in the SEC at Mississippi State. I think every year is different. Mm-hmm. Like, you just can't, I think a lot of times coaches get caught up in the thinking that, okay, my way is going to be the way. And I just think it can be, especially in a sport like women's tennis, where there's so many individual parts that you're trying to put together. So I think my whole message to them has been like, I'm okay with you failing, but I'm not okay with you not trying. And I think they sensed that in the beginning, right from the start, that's all. And, all my successful teams I've had in the past, we had in the past, was all teams that fought. They cared. And I think if you can build that in your team, everything else falls into place. It's a lot easier. But if you're struggling to get that part established, it's really hard, because then you're basically relying on a day-to-day talent, and most times they're not. Like I've said, I've always tried to tell them, you're going to play worse than you think you are. It's just you have to be 0.5% better than your opponent. And I've always told them, if your opponent's playing like trash, all you have to do is be a little bit better than trash. If she's playing average, you have to be a little better than average. If she's playing good, you have to be a little better than good. If she's playing great, you may not win that day. But that's going to happen 1 out of 10 times.
So basically, you want adjustments in the match to say, okay, you may not be at your best that day, but can you be just a little bit better on the next point?
Because I think a lot of times what they struggle to understand is that the person across the net is going through the same thing as them. Nobody is in this. And I think, I think it's very unique, because I think in a sport, true team sport, it's easier to show that. But in an individual sport, it's harder, because they don't see it as quickly. And I think they just view it as, oh my God, this girl's so good. And I'm like, you're down 2-1. It's been 3 games, right? So I think with coaching girls, that's like the number one thing. You have to try to get them to try to take the emotion out as much as you can. And that's why a big thing for me has been rituals I'm trying to get them to do, go to their towels after every point, reset, no matter what. Like, I don't have any problem with them being mad at themselves. Go yell in the towel, as long as you're not getting a point penalty. But then it's over. You can't come to me then and say, because of that, you lost 3 games, because then you've reached the point where you can't come back. And I think, honestly, that's what happened to us a little bit earlier in the season. And I think the one thing we have gotten way better at is resetting. I think we are patting ourselves on the back more for things we do well, and we're not beating ourselves on the head as much for things we don't do well. And I think that usually, if you can consistently do that over a course of the season, that probably translates more into success than failure. And I think finally I can see that this team is starting. We're not a finished product by any stretch, but I think they're reaching the stage where they're understanding the importance of doing that for themselves on a point-by-point basis.
That's super exciting, especially with you being your first year, being able to see that progress in real time. Coach, you mentioned the experience that you've had, the 25 years of tennis experience as a coach. What's the journey been like for you to get to Ball State? Before Ball State, we know you coached in the SEC, but what's this whole journey for you been like?
It's amazing. I came here as a student athlete from India. I mean, I had no intention of staying in the United States. I played 94 to 98. I played at Valdosta State, which is a Division II powerhouse. I mean, amazing career. I was blessed to be in the Hall of Fame there. Went on to graduate school, got my master's in business administration and in management, and I actually wanted to be an investment banker. But I really loved coaching, and my coach at the time, who's still the coach at Valdosta State, was kind of like Bill Richards. This is his 54th year, I think, there, kind of told me, hey, you're a natural at this. So, I stayed there, and then I got an offer at the University of Northern Iowa. I spent 10 years there as the head coach there, coaching the women, kind of like very similar to here, a rebuild that, we rebuilt to be one of the best teams in the Missouri Valley. I kind of had the itch to coach men to see how it was. So I went to an NAIA school in Kentucky, Lindsey Wilson, for 2 years, coached both the men and the women. And then one of my closest friends, Daryl Greedon, was the head coach at Mississippi State, and he offered me the chance to go to the SEC in 2014. And obviously being in the SEC was amazing. I met my wife there. She's from Mississippi. She's a Mississippi State grad. So I spent 9 great years there. But, I really wanted a program where it was more about the players, the people. And I think in the SEC, it's going away from that, and it's becoming more of what you can do for me, more about the winning. I think the importance of the student part of the student athlete has been minimalized to a major degree, and I don't care what they say, but I was in it and I know how it is. And I just felt like, after meeting, with Jeff, I mean, Jeff's vision is amazing. He wants to do it the right way. He wants your student athletes to have a first-class experience, graduate, and move on no matter what they do, contribute in a positive manner to society. And I think for me now in my coaching career, I think that's probably the single most important thing that I take more pride in, seeing my student athletes over the years be a huge positive influence in society and doing great things, whether they're moms or lawyers, whatever they're doing, than more about winning. Now I'm extremely competitive. I want to win. But I think this aligned more with my vision of what I wanted for my career. And I think, obviously, I think the people are great at Ball State. This is what makes us, such a truly wonderful place to work. I think they'll, in the athletic department, they let you do your job. There's nobody interfering with you, trying to tell you to do it a certain way. They hire you. They know they hired you for a reason. And they're like, hey, just get it done the right way, and we'll be on our way, And I think that probably, when I talked to Jeff, when I visited here, it reminded me a lot of Northern Iowa. I had 10 great years there. And this is just, I think, at a little bigger level with the football being, FBS and at the highest level. So I think, my wife and me visited, we liked Muncie. So I think everything fell in place for me to kind of make this my next stop. And I knew it was going to be a rebuild, but I saw, when I met the girls right off the bat, I was like, these girls care. They want to see good things happen. And I think it's a great building block for on. We're going to be a very, very tough team to play here in the next coming years because of what we have and what we're going to add. And I'm so excited to be here and keep this journey going.
Coach, I want to go back to what you said at the first part of that question, or that answer, of starting your journey coming from India to the United States. Didn't think you'd stay. What was that like for you to go from India to the United States and transition into the collegiate sphere in the U.S.?
It was a culture shock, in the beginning, but it was also unbelievable to see, and this was obviously 30 years ago, so we didn't even have 5% of the things they have now, but just to see what all was available to me to just progress my journey in life, whether it be tennis or whether it be whatever I chose to do. It's truly an amazing experience. Like, I've never had so many people care and want good things for me on a daily basis in my life. And I think more than anything, that's what opened my eyes, like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. Like all I have to do is be a good human being, study, be a good teammate, and then the world is open for me to do whatever I want to achieve. And I think that's what I've kind of tried to model my coaching philosophy on, is like, hey, if you guys do what you need to do, the world, you can do whatever you want to do. You know, you can achieve whatever you want to be. And I never knew that coming in. Like it was complete, utter shock for me to see, you know, like how much the teachers, even in just on a daily basis in class, you know, they want you to succeed. Your trainers, you know, your coaches, like anybody you interact with, like they want you to succeed. And it's such a cool feeling. And I think I think it's interesting because I think most student athletes realize it, you know, like me, I probably took it for granted when I was doing it. You know, but once I kind of became an adult, you know, 7, 8 years down the line, I got into coaching. I really realized, holy crap, you know, this was unbelievable, like where my life has come. And because of the people that kind of, you know, gave me multiple chances to do certain things. So, you know, I think it's such a unique experience. Like, I don't think there's anything like it in the world. I think you know, the student athletes that are blessed enough to play collegiate athletics, I mean, I think you can see most of them succeed because they have a true bond. You know, my teammates right now are all over the world. They're my best friends from 30 years ago. You know, I mean, we stay in touch pretty much every single day. And I mean, it's amazing. It is truly unbelievable. And, you know, my family visited here. They visited multiple occasions, and they can't believe, you know, the access and what the student athletes have available to them. Like there's nothing like it in the world. And I think it's because of, you know, people that have this vision that and see that, you know, student athletes do contribute. You know, they are probably the creme de la creme of society after they go through, you know, I mean, tennis players, track athletes, softball, baseball. I mean, they're all successful people. You know, it's because I think they have that discipline and that camaraderie and that feeling of like giving back because somebody did something for them to make them successful. And I think they go out of their way. So I just think it's such an unbelievable community that just college athletics has. And I think it's such a positive influence just on society in general, and most of the towns that these universities are located in live and die by the school. You know, the allegiance that they have, the alumni, the pride that they have. And I don't care what, I mean, athletics is the flagship of every university. Like it's what carries the university. You know, these power conferences, these schools wouldn't be where they are without the Power Fives. You know, Ball State would not be where it is without the successes and without the contributions that our student athletes have made. So I just think you have such a unique way of being a flagship for your university that, and I did not know that, you know, and it's been eye-opening for me and I've been blessed to be at every level, but that one thing never changes. You know, the pride that the town has in your university and the athletic department and the different sports, I think is one thing that's been constant throughout my journey. And I take pride. I try to go to every event I can because I take pride in representing Ball State University and being a part of the athletic department.
Well, Coach, we're sure lucky and grateful to have you a part of Ball State Athletics. Thank you so much, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Go Cards.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gamebridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.